Three, two.
Hey, hey. Hello. Hello, animal allies. What's up? What's good? What's new? What's going on? What's shaking? I am very excited to be joined by AAM mentor Pete tonight to learn about how Grassroots activists forced a 22 restaurant conglomerate to drop foie gras from their menus company-wide and what's next for the anti-foie gras movement. So you will also learn about an upcoming convergence in Austin, Texas. And we're asking activists to join the fight for animal liberation in person. So stay with us. Stay tuned for that. Before we start our program, my name is Michelle Granberg. I'm a mentor and team member with Animal Activism Mentorship. For those of you who are new to AAM, AAM is a multinational program designed to support and empower activists to reach their potential and equip them with the tools, community, and resources they need to boldly participate in our global animal liberation movement. Founded in 2020, AAM offers a free 3-month mentorship program which pairs experienced activists with aspiring activists. You can apply today to become a mentor or mentee through our website. And we are so much more than a mentorship program. We offer free educational online live streams and trainings like this one. We have a podcast called the Animal Liberation Hour, found wherever podcasts are found. And we host large-scale in-person activism events around the country. If you've ever been, those of us who are joining on YouTube, to one of our convergences, you know how amazing they are. You know how powerful they are. You know how effective they are. Chime in and let us know your experience with that. So now it's my pleasure to bring on AAM mentor and powerhouse activist himself, Pete. His YouTube channel, by the way, Red Pill Pete, is dedicated to educating and inspiring others to take action and become effective advocates for animals. And he is co-organizing the upcoming Austin Convergence, which we are going to cover. And Pete will take your questions, not yet, in a bit. So hold on to your questions for now, and then we will get to those. So, hey, Pete.
Hey, Meech, how are you? It's good to see you.
Good to
Long time
see
no see,
you.
right?
Good to see. I'm going to reach out and hug you right there.
Yeah, just I feel it. I feel it already. Yeah.
We love you. So
It was nice to finally meet you in person at
it
the
was
New
New
York
York.
convention.
That was
Yeah,
right. The first time, but not the last time.
not the last.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Activists must come together. We must.
Yes.
There are magnets bringing us together. So you, my friend, are fresh off a major victory with High Hospitality, who announced that they're dropping foie gras. So I know you want to talk about that, how that went. Tell us about whatever you need to tell us about the timeline, the specific group actions, the strategies, because obviously it worked, and how long it took, and what was the winning formula. And of course, I want to know, how did you feel when you heard, like what was the feeling like for you, and why is this win so significant?
Sure. So I can get more deeply into the direct beginnings a little bit later. We can touch on that, but I'll just kind of give you an overview of the structure of High Hospitality. They are a restaurant group based in Austin, Texas. And it's actually, I think you said 22 in the beginning. They just announced there's a new Laurel location opening in Austin. That's one of their other subsidiaries, one of their other restaurants, I should say. So 23 is the actual number, and yeah, so they are based in Austin, Texas, which is where this campaign had its roots, where it began, but those roots quickly spread nationwide, west to east coast. This isn't my campaign. This is the campaign of hundreds of activists on the ground and thousands of activists around the country that chimed in from afar and helped get this win. But High Hospitality is unique in that in their very beginnings, foie gras was a staple on their menu. It was a staple um, across all boards with their how do I say, flagship restaurant, Uchi, and that's probably the most famous name, famous restaurant within the restaurant group itself. And they sold foie gras not just as like some side dish, not as a shaving or a topping or a mousse or in their mayonnaise. They sold it as a main appetizer, right? It was foie gras in and of itself. It wasn't seasonal. It was on the menu all year long. And when this sort of kicked off with activists in Austin, there were 27 or so, give or take. Things change organically throughout the years. This is about 2 years ago when it began, and there was, let's just say, almost 30 restaurants serving foie gras, and four of them that were serving foie gras or adjacently related to high hospitality uchi were there in Austin. So you had Uchi, Uchiko, Loro, and Uchiba. And it was a conversation among activists in Austin. Where do we start? Do we start with an easy win, or do we? We're going to be in this for the long run. So why don't we start with high hospitality itself? And we can always adjust. We can always take sort of a step back and take a look at, based upon our momentum and our strategy and how we grow. We were ready to change as we saw fit. But with this decision, or I should say, this decision was only possible with the ability to stretch from coast to coast and join hands with other activists and make this sort of like a national campaign, not just an Austin campaign, right? So at this time, they were in, I want to say, 5 cities when this campaign first began. It was Austin, Houston, Dallas, Miami, and Denver. It was 5. And now they're in LA, they're in Plano, they're in Phoenix, Scottsdale, to be exact, Phoenix area. They're opening one in DC. They're opening one in Charlotte. I mean, they're just exponentially growing. So with the help of AAM, knowing different mentors, different mentees, being able to use AAM's platform and reach, we sort of built this cohesive campaign nationwide. And everybody stuck in. Everybody stayed in the pocket. Everybody worked together. There were often simultaneous actions done in coordination across the entire country. And, in retrospect, the group itself in Austin, in retrospect, them being sort of green as far as pressure campaigns are concerned, I mean, perhaps that's why they chose such a difficult strategy, such a difficult campaign, such a difficult target, because they were green. And I would say possibly in retrospect, they would slowly climb the totem pole, climb the ladder, and maybe have started with an easier win. But because it began this way, it organically unfolded into this nationwide thing, this huge effort that, like I said in the beginning, involved hundreds of different activists across the nation, and really, I think, added to the cohesiveness of the anti-foie gras movement. And I believe, whether directly or indirectly, other cities that weren't doing foie gras at the time started to get more involved, and there were, small spin-offs. Maybe they saw all these activists that they regularly interact with, and they didn't have an uchi, or high hospitality, I should say, restaurant in their area, and they were like, "Shit, I want to get involved too. How can I get involved?" Well, you certainly have restaurants that are unrelated that also sell foie gras in your city, and people started, their own campaigns in different cities, and it's been really, really amazing to witness, to be part of, to share ideas with others, and to share in all of the wins. And I really gotta, in the beginning here, the activists that I worked with, I want to highlight this in the beginning, so it's like, I don't forget it. The activists in Austin, I've been all over. I love every group of activists that I've been part of, from, Georgia and Florida and wherever else I've lived and or traveled. The activists in Austin, the way that they stepped up and reached across the aisle to one another and walked together through these flames. It was truly exceptional, and they're an exceptional group and bunch of people. And that's not just an ad for the Austin Convergence. This is real stuff. I mean, most of you that are watching that are involved in the movement know that, know some of these people personally, maybe on an individual basis, or know of the lore of Austin activists. And I'm just truly proud of them, everything that they did, and they helped tremendously get this win. Yeah.
All right. I like that you're giving shout outs already, and we'll have more shout outs to do.
Oh
So
yeah.
let's connect the dots then between, this path to victory that you took, and we're celebrating, but we're not resting at all. So there's an upcoming convergence. Do you want to talk about that now and connect the dots between the win and the convergence, and what the plan is now in terms of, and why we need people, why we want people to be responsive now and join us?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We can get right into that. So the convergence. So I like to think of convergences, animal activism mentorship convergences, as sort of this we have a common problem, and we're converging on one spot with a common solution. So the common goal with Austin was to come together and try to negotiate with high hospitality to have them drop foie gras for the victims involved. And that was done, right? That's been done just recently now. And on the surface level, it might seem like, oh no, well they beat Uchi, they beat high hospitality. Something I've been a part of with them in other cities and other states all this time. So like, what's the point? I've heard some like murmurs of people talking about this or asking me personally about it, and I'm like, what are you talking about? We just beat high hospitality. High hospitality was sort of like in the way of doing something way bigger than just beating the largest restaurant retailer of foie gras in the United States. Although that sounds amazing when you put it like that. Now that Uchi, high hospitality, they're sort of like they're out of the way. We love Uchi now. Um, we can focus on the bigger goal, and the bigger goal is to make Austin, Texas, the capital of Texas, the first major city in the entire United States to enact essentially a foie gras free policy without legislative actions, right? So this is done 100% through pressure campaigning. So this is, we have the potential to set an even larger and greater precedent by doing that. I mean, that's, I just can't reiterate that enough. And it's easy to miss if you don't think about it. It's like, oh, Uchi was so difficult. It went on for years. They were in now 8 different cities and growing into like a dozen. They're huge. What are we going to do now? There's nothing left. Well, there is something left. Let's make the capital of one of the, Texas. I mean, one of Austin is like a foodie city where chefs are celebrities, and we truly have the chance to change the map on what we as activists allow to be served, at restaurants, and it's exciting. It's even more exciting, and there's out of the original 30 or so left, there's 7 working on there's almost 6 left. Not there yet. It's teetering. And we have the chance to truly rid the city like Batman, come in and clean the city up. It's really cool.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That is such a high bar, but reachable and doable, and there's such vision in that. And I don't know if you want to say anything more about specifically, or you want people to sort of sign up to come to the convergence and to sort of know what the next steps will be. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, theanimalsneedyou.com. One of you guys can drop it in the chat if you will, and you can sign up, register through that link. When we come together in Austin, it's going to be tremendous. I mean, I already know, I've already gotten personal confirmation and had great conversations with so many amazing activists that I'm just like honored, or even coming to Austin, coming to the city that I've been in. It's going to be tremendous the way that we learn from one another and work together and grow this thing of ours, bigger than it is. And whether or not we clean up, I think we really have the potential and chance to. If you get in that link right now, sign up and bring your butts to Austin. I think we really have a good chance of making the city fully foie gras free. And even if we don't, if we're left with one or two targets, I mean, you will have made history with us. You come to this convergence and help us get to the last one or the last two. We're gonna finish. We're gonna finish the job. Don't you fret on that. And just come make history with us. Come make history, and then we're gonna do it in the next city, in the next city, in the next city, and we'll work with groups like Pro Animal Future, that do legislative stuff. And I mean, there's just so much we can do. I'm going on a tangent here, so I'll let you reel
Yeah.
me back in.
No, I don't want to reel you back in. I want you to keep going. No,
Yeah,
but you started to just mention, I know you're collaborating a lot, which is necessary for successful campaigns to collab, and form alliances with other grassroots groups all
yeah.
over the country. So, do you want to mention any of those and the role that they play, including Duck Alliance, including any other local or national groups that are, have been bringing their inspiration and perspiration and action to this
I like
endeavor?
that. I like that inspiration and perspiration. That's the damn truth. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. The Duck Alliance is just like a loose, collaborative effort of activists all around the country and beyond, and abroad, that are involved in this anti-foie gras movement right now. So it's not just campaigns related to Austin or Uchi per se. It's all campaigns. Uh, so yeah, definitely check out the Duck Alliance. Um, I kind of already said it, but I'll reiterate it, and I'll reiterate it again. I mean, I definitely don't mind saying it two, three, four, five more times. This huge win, this new precedent for a win against a restaurant group that's at 23 and growing. In 2 to 3 years, I'm sure there'll be double. You're talking about like 40 restaurants that were once foie gras friendly. Could not have been done. This win could not have been had without every single city and every activist involved. And the activists that are involved in watching this right now, they know that. So, the activists in Austin, in Dallas, in Houston, the activists in Miami, in Denver, in Phoenix, in LA, in New York City, in DC, Charlotte was ready. I mean, just everybody involved. We could not have done it without you. It's not an Austin win. It's a win for our movement. And it really shows. Because I'm like, when I started doing this, when I started activism myself, just a little bit over 5 years ago, I started the way most of us do. Uh, I started with outreach, with AV, and I still do that. I still, you see on my YouTube channel, although it hasn't been, excuse me, I haven't been as active on there lately because I've been so involved and wrapped up in this, and it's been time consuming. It seems like a lot of this seems like hardly anything on the surface, but it's grueling. It's like you wake up and think about it, you go to sleep thinking about it, you might have nightmares about it. Uh, you're obsessed with it. That's the only way to get these wins. And yeah, I started out as an outreacher, and I still think that's an important thing, to reach across the board and have conversations. I mean, that's literally what I'm doing right now with Pro Animal Future. I'm helping them as a volunteer in Denver, and we're doing legislative outreach. We're doing deep canvassing. We're knocking on doors of voters. They've collected over 30,000 signatures, and now we're having to do our due diligence and use our outreach skills to go and knock on doors and tell people about 308 and 309, the ban on fur and the ban on slaughterhouses in Denver, which is another unprecedented thing. Denver is set to be the first major city to ban slaughterhouses. And that's done through outreach. That's done through through, again, reaching across the aisle, and everybody from every walk of this movement working together and effectively creating change. And I can't, I wish I could name every single one of you individually. You know who you are. I have such deep love and admiration for you. And I can't say it enough that I'm just so proud to work with you. I'm proud to be here right now giving this interview, representing you and your win. And I just can't, I'm 5 years into this thing, and I'm baffled about the potential of the future and what it looks like. I just can't wait to do big and bigger things with all of you. So, I salute you all.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate that I have the short list here. Maybe there are others as well, but
Yeah,
in addition to Duck Alliance, SoFlo, Colorado, SoFlo, Colorado, Austin Animal Advocates, AAM, Los Angeles Animal Defense League, among many others. And then there are folks who join us who are just individuals who want to
sure.
lend their voice to this movement.
Yeah, those are some of the group names. And all of those are in the cities that I mentioned. Uh, and like Dallas and Houston, they don't really have like. Well, actually, no, Dallas. They just it's like a brand new little collective they put together. It's Dallas against, oh geez, Dallas Animal Defense. Yeah, I see it there. Yeah, the acronym is DAD. You don't want to mess with Dad when he's mad about you force feeding ducks. You can go to Mom and she might say it's okay, but Dad's gonna say no. So yeah, that's the little conglomerate in Dallas, and Houston has their own little group. But yeah, thank you for mentioning those names specifically, Meech.
Yeah, and I want to mention, I started, creating a list of my own just so I keep up with it, because we're actually also working against foie gras in my area in Philly with
Yeah,
Revolution Philadelphia.
I see you
So
guys.
as
Yeah,
part of the speak out, just to let the restaurants know that they're not alone, and the precedent that's already been set for foie gras being dropped, certainly. And so maybe you can add to this list, but here's my list that is long. So in North Carolina, who've gone foie gras, M Restaurant, Miko, Dean's Italian Steakhouse. In Florida, Emberswood Grill, Furrenbacher, Arashiyama, and Bite and Bubbles. In Massachusetts, Troquet on South and Tallulah. In Canada, The Mark. In Washington, D.C., La Ardente, sorry if I pronounce these wrong, Love Mikado, Little Blackbird, Cafe du Parc, Le Chat Noir. In Virginia, Sen Organics. And Texas has, like we're saying, the longest list. Room 725, Garrison's District Kitchen, Lin Asian Bar, Ling Wu, High Hospitality, including Uchi, J Prime Steakhouse, Dean's Italian Steakhouse, Driscoll Grill, Carpenter's Hall, High Hat Public House, and J Carver's was semi-recently. So who am I missing there? Anybody else? Heath, that I'm missing? Anybody want to put in the chat if there's any other restaurants I
yeah.
missed of
Put it
late?
in the chat.
Put it in the chat. Let us know who we might have missed or which one you're celebrating the most. We would really like to hear that. So let's bring the focus to the Ducks for a minute, because this is who we're talking about and who we're
Sure.
fighting for, and we don't want to we're not overlooking them at all. And I know we're preaching to the choir a bit here, and folks on with us, joining us, know what foie gras is and how bad it is. But just in case there are a few who will watch this who don't know, foie gras is supposed to be a delicacy, a French delicacy that is crueler than cruel, that is where ducks are bred into existence solely for solely for the reason of being bred and trapped in small cages. At a young age, they are fed 2 to 3 times a day, force fed with metal tubes shoved down their esophagus. And that food is pumped in until their stomachs their livers become diseased. And that's supposed to be the tasty, wonderful, tasty part. And then they are slaughtered and they are served. So is that right, Pete? So, and what do you want to say about the ducks themselves as we, feel all that empathy, so much empathy, because this is why we're fighting for the many, many young ducks, young, so unfair, so effed up this is.
Yeah. average about 12 weeks old. I'm getting a little teary-eyed right
It's
now.
upsetting.
Uh,
It's really
yeah,
upsetting.
yeah. When AAM put together that high hospitality win, I think I watched it. I don't know, probably over a dozen times now. It's because it's been over a week. Definitely over a dozen times. And the first I think like four times. It took me like till the fifth time viewing it before I could watch it with dry eyes. And it wasn't just the joy that I felt in knowing that we all joined hands, and like I thought about all the people involved and all the people behind that stand with us in solidarity with us and against this cruelty. It wasn't obviously just them, but they were part of it. It was mainly thinking of the victims and thinking I tend to think of this thing as a vegan, as an animal rights activist. I, I'm so passionate about it because of it sounds like it's simple, empathy, right? I I picture I picture how easy it is for me to be or have been in the victim's position. Just it's a roll of the dice. How we're born, who we're born as. We can't control these things, and these animals are born the way they are. They're vulnerable. They're easily taken advantage of, um, and people exploit that. Us, my species. Uh, I guess that's part of where the tears come from too. It's mostly happy and in regards to the victims that we help liberate through these sorts of actions and these sorts of wins. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, just imagining them in squalor, in their own urine, in their own feces, in a dark dungeon that is hell to them. It's hell. And at such a young age, they're grabbed by the neck. They have a tube shoved down their throat. Even if that didn't occur, even if the extra cruelty didn't go into it, I mean, they're still babies, and they still get shackled up, and they're killed like pieces of trash, and people eat them, and they shit them out, and they flush them down the toilet. It's insane to me. It's like we're living in some sort of upside down world.
Exactly.
But it's okay because we're gonna keep doing this. We're gonna keep creating change. We're gonna freaking keep winning because this movement keeps growing and growing and growing, and we're gonna keep winning. I don't care until my last breath. This is what I'm gonna be doing. I don't think I don't think it's animal liberation in one generation. That would be nice, yeah.
Mm.
Uh, but I don't care. I'm in it for the long haul, however long it takes. And so many others are just like me, and they're obsessed with this. So
Mm.
you ain't gonna stop us. We do this for passion. We do this because we feel like we have to. These restaurants, these animal abusers, they do it because they profit from it, right? That's what drives them is money. What drives this with us is passion. They don't cry joyful tears when they get a paycheck. Well, I don't know, some of these people, you know that $1 million paycheck, I don't know, but you know what I mean, right? Nothing's going to stop us. There's nothing you can do to us. You stop me, the movement will keep going on. You stop the next person, the movement's going to keep going on. You lock one of us up, we'll get out the next day. We'll keep doing the same thing. The people who stood next to me are going to show up the next. You're in a losing battle. If you remember the quote from Tyson Cole with when AAM did that little collaborative victory video, there was a quote from him with some activists that went and interviewed him at his house. They knocked and said, "Hey, I was wondering if we could just have a conversation, about this." And he invited them to have a conversation, and they talked for a long time. And the activist tried to get through to him with empathy, and he said, this is a conversation about millions of dollars. This is a conversation bigger than the one that you and I are having at my front door. It's bigger than us. It's as big as millions of dollars, right? And we will outlast you. We'll never drop foie gras. We've been selling it for over 20 years. He
Hmm.
he ate his words, didn't he?
Yeah.
They dropped foie gras. They had no other choice. And activists are creative. They do this in their free time. They give up their free time, their hobbies, their time with their loved ones and then friends. They take off work to do this stuff. You're just not going to win. So just if you're still out there, you're watching this, you're selling foie gras still. You might think it's cute. You might think it's a joke, but you don't want the smoke. Just go. Give us a foie gras free policy whenever the activists ask for it. We're not in this to make it personal. We're not against you at all. We just want to better the lives for the victims involved here. So don't take it personal. It's nothing personal, but we will win. We'll keep coming back. We always win. It's not just a saying. It's a fact. So
Absolutely, Pete. Thank you
yeah,
for highlighting, all of that. And, you know, remembering the victims is what keeps us going. Absolutely. And, it's we're in this for them. And you're right, these companies are in it for greed and ego, or because it's always been done that way. And we're going to keep going until every cage is empty. But so for you in your experience being out there, what's been the public response? People who are around, do you have a general sort of feel for that? I know we get a feel for that with fur and other campaigns, where the public generally, are they on the side of banning it? I know when we're out there in Philly, I think we mostly get the positive thumbs up and people are get it and they're on our side, or they just think we're wasting our time sometimes and they're like, get a job. But that's okay too. So what have you noticed?
yeah. Just remember, if you have time to watch the mob, maybe you should get a job. Um, but yeah, it's overwhelmingly positive and in our favor when activists are out there in the streets. The passersby it's overwhelmingly positive. And it's overwhelmingly positive when you look at the data as well, when you look at the statistics, when you look at the polls. So I think the most recent poll is the Zogby poll, and I believe it was New York City. It was over 80%. It included Democrats and Republicans. Over 80% disagreed with foie gras production. They thought it had no place in our society, and that seems to be the sentiment across the board. When I talk to people who are, you know, even part of the opposition. I mean, they're against it. They're just stuck in it. They've been selling it for 20 years. It's a conversation worth millions of dollars that's bigger than the one we're having right now. And that's what it's about. But in the hearts and minds of most people, I think everybody can agree. I mean, just watch the footage. If you're watching this and you're skeptical about the things that we're talking about here, and you're skeptical that it's that it's cruel by any means, just YouTube it, look it up, and put yourself in the victim's position,
Yeah.
and ask yourself if you'd like that to be done to you. The golden rule: do unto others. So yeah, I think certainly with foie gras, it's an easy one. Most all people are against it. I mean, you get like around 50% or so of Americans think that factory farms and factory slaughterhouses, don't quote me on that, I think that's correct, are against it. So that's like half the population. I want to say it's right around there. It's through the roof when you're talking about foie. It's 80%. Uh, so so yeah, and that could kind of lead me in. That could kind of segue into the next, sort of subtopic here, and kind of like the question: why foie gras? Why things like fur? Why things like foie gras? And you know, sometimes sounds insensitive when you call it low hanging fruit, but that's all. That is what these things are, in a sense, right? You've got if you did a poll on how many people, the restaurants that we go after with that have foie gras, if you try to get these restaurants to ban cow flesh from their entire menu. Would we be able to do that effectively? How long would it take? How many resources? How much of our time? Would people get burnt out before we actually got effective wins? You have to consider all of these things. But foie gras, it's a fringe product, right? It's only sold at very select restaurants. It's been banned in 18 countries for its obvious cruelty towards animals. The general sentiment, the general public sentiment, is already unfavorable when it comes to foie gras. Most people are against it. There's you have to start somewhere, and I think fur, foie gras, these sorts of things are some of the more effective ways to get things started when we're concerned with pressure campaigns, right? And even like legislatively, this is they go after things like greyhound racing and fur and foie gras. So even legislatively, it makes sense. This is just what we have to do. This is where we start, right? And some people look at some of these things like it's like speciesist, or it's just focused on one movement or one form of activism, but it's tactical. Trust, like
Yeah.
Trust. Like we think about this kind of stuff. We're not just going at this with blinders on. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And as well with this, it's again, foie. It's not like highly tax subsidized. Like if you were to compare it to, like, say, the dairy industry, right? Foie gras is not subsidized like these other industries are. Like the feed that they use to feed the birds, the feed itself is subsidized still, but the farms themselves aren't heavily subsidized like many dairy farms and these other industries are. So you're kind of like you're one step forward and two steps back with the tax subsidies. You don't have to fight that pressure with things like foie gras. And then there's not a direct replacement with foie gras. So with things like, say if we, just throwing an example out there, say if we went to a restaurant and we tried to educate their customers and the public to pressure the restaurant to drop bacon, let's say, right? The customers, say they dropped it, say the restaurant dropped it, they did a bacon-free policy. Well, would we then have to ask them, to get rid of like ham and all the other pig flesh products? Foie gras doesn't have a direct replacement. So when bacon's replaced, they'll just, they can still order the ham sandwich, and the same, essentially, the same number of pigs are still going into the gas chamber and having their throat slit for this restaurant, in a sense. With foie, there's one major that's 80-90% Hudson Valley, New York. There's one, and then there's LaBelle, and there's one in Minnesota. The French name, it's hard to, they're tiny, and then there's one Rugi in Canada. So with there not being a direct replacement, it's more of a direct win. These restaurants, I mean, I'm sorry, these farms and slaughterhouses aren't going to be churning out the same number of animals. They're not going to be breeding the same number of animals into existence when you're affecting 2%, 4%, 10% of their sales. I mean, it just doesn't make sense because there's no direct replacement. There's no other form of foie gras. So, and the final note on these sorts of campaigns, I think these are pressure campaigns, right? And I think these pressure campaigns are so valuable because they train activists on how to run an effective pressure campaign, and it trains them on how to collaborate, reach across the aisle, work with one another, to tactically escalate, to be creative and work with activists around the entire country. Like I was saying in the very beginning of this podcast, it works as a great tool to grow this movement of ours into something way bigger and way stronger, So like for so many reasons, these sorts of pressure campaigns like fur, like foie gras are just so incredibly important. And you know, when activists first began this will be my last Meech on this topic. When activists first began this campaign in Austin, they sat down and they discussed doing a sort of a fur focused pressure campaign. But I mean, Austin's like, you know, it's 112 degrees in the summer, not a whole lot of fur to go after, so it'd be a lot of downtime. So they figured, well, what we have here is this foie gras thing, so that's what we're going to go after. And you know, when there's collaborative effort to be had with fur, we can join in on that too in our spare time. So, yeah.
No, that's great. It's good to remind activists, especially new activists, that we're targeting foie gras because it's winnable, proven to be winnable, and that there is strategy, organized strategy, and time-tested tactics behind this. So, you know, dovetailing on that, then, you know, if there's an activist right now listening to this in a city where there is no foie gras campaign, but there's foie restaurants that serve it, what would be the first step for them? What would be the first thing you recommend to get started to organize for that? And maybe, again, maybe for folks who are new to this, just say like a pressure campaign is and why it
Sure.
works overall.
Sure. So start at the start. So the Duck Alliance, they are currently mentoring some other activists in cities that are starting foie gras free city campaigns, just like the one in Austin. So there's an activist in the beginning stages in Denver starting this. There's some activists in Phoenix that are starting this, and they're sort of, you know, they're taking a look at not just one restaurant at a time. They're not just you know, shooting blindly. They are starting with making a spreadsheet, figuring out every single city or every single restaurant in their city that serves foie gras. They do their due diligence. They follow through to verify that they actually do sell this product, that it is still on the menu. They they will then verify. I'm not going to give away every little secret. I got to be careful what I give to. I know, you know, some of you who are watching. I can't give you all my secrets. But for the activists, yeah, you know, you make a spreadsheet, figure out exactly who's selling it in your city. You know, find out if they're publicly or privately owned. Figure out if they have multiple locations. Are they in other cities? Are they in other states? Can you collectively work with other activists? Can you apply pressure to them nationwide? You know, is foie gras a main item on their menu, or is it just in their mayonnaise? You know, is it just something that they mix into another product? How valuable is this product to their overall revenue? And then you can kind of go through that list once you have all of that information and some more that I left out that I'm not going to give. Um, you know how to find me and reach out to me if you need, you know, help in that regard. And you can also reach out to the Duck Alliance, and they'll help you get started if you want to start something like this in your city. But once you have this list, then you can kind of go through and you can, you know, say there's 10 in your city. You know, you can start where it makes sense to start, and you can, you know, label them sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, and increasingly and you know, from easy to more difficult, I would say. But again, that's all subjective, and it's contextual, and it sort of like the answer to all this is it depends, right?
Mhm.
And then I would say, you know, don't. Some of you might be listening to this right now, and you might already feel defeated because maybe you're the only person that you know who right now is listening to this and is sparked, you know, by the idea of this, and you're like, oh, I can't do this in my city because I need like 10 people. I need like 20 people. I need, you know, I need this huge group. No, the hell you don't. You know, you just have to be consistent. And I mean, two people. I mean, even one person. You know, security becomes you know, an issue then, like going out there and doing things by yourself. But I mean, one person. You know, two people. Three people, you know, I think they say three's a crowd, right? And they say that for a reason. So three people show up to a restaurant to educate the customers and to put pressure on the restaurant for 2 hours during their busiest times. Which I'll tell you, you can just go to Google and whatever restaurant it is, you just type in the name of the restaurant and put busy times, and then you know exactly when to go protest them. It'll you check each day of the week. You go on their busiest time on a Saturday with their busiest day, and with three people and megaphones if allowed in your city, or whatever, just your loud voices and a strong message and passion, and you stay consistent and you do one protest a week, or you do 2 or 3 protests a week, and you work with others and mentors on how to escalate to go after, put pressure on like secondary targets, targets that have a secondary relation to your primary target, or tertiary, it just means like third, third in line, and then quaternary targets, so you can play this game and you can win, with just a small number of people. And so you start where you start. You make that list, you go through it, you pick a good target for your for number one. You send out an email, a nice email that says, you guys serve foie gras and this is how it's made. Go through the process of gavage, the force feeding process. We know that you source your foie gras from so and so. They're at the base of multiple undercover investigations, and it's been banned in 18 countries. And due to the recent Zogby poll, 80% of Americans disagree with it. Most of your customers are probably sickened by the fact that it's on your menu. It's not popular. It's not kind. It's not cool. So would you please, take it off your menu? We can help you find faux gras, like alternatives. And then hopefully you have some correspondence, right? And you open up that ability to have a conversation. And I'll use DC as a primary example, as a recent example on this. They sent out an email to their most recent win, to the restaurant that they got their most recent win against, I should say. They sent out an email, an informative email, similar. I don't know exactly what they said, but something probably similar to what I just said. And then a few of them went in person to ask the manager or the owner, hey, can we have a conversation? We sent out an email. We didn't, I don't know if they got a response, but I would imagine it went something like, we didn't get a response. Can we talk to you guys about it? And either the owner, I think it's the owner, or the manager was like, yeah, you guys come on to the back right now. Come to my office. They had the activists sit down in their office. Not one protest has gone down at this point. They had them sit down in their office. The owner or manager got on the computer, started typing, hit print, and or maybe send it to their email. This is like all folklore. I'm like speaking with conjecture here. I wasn't there, obviously. I just briefly talked to one of the activists involved. And essentially, they were handed a foie gras free policy right then and right there, just after trying to reach across the aisle to this restaurant and starting a conversation. There's a lot of wins that occur this way, just from the initial email, the educational process. Some of these restaurants don't realize that these ducks they have tubes shoved in their throats. They really don't. I mean, they're just it's business to them. They're not thinking about this the way that we are. So we can highlight these sorts of things. And then, yeah, you if that doesn't work, right? If you don't get as lucky as DC just did, then you start your first protest. And it depends on how many people you have and how willing they are, how much time they have on their hands. And I say stay out there for an hour or 2 hours. Do speak outs and get a list of chants from the Duck Alliance if you don't know the chants, and you guys practice your chants, and you educate, and you can hand out leaflets. This is all First Amendment protected activity. It's free speech. It's our right to gather, our right to protest. you film the interactions for safety and for putting on the internet. You can also share that through Duck Alliance. They're helping new campaigns with that. They'll help create videos and post. And then, again, contextual. Maybe you do 6 protests back to back to back to back. Maybe it's 6 weeks, and then you start thinking about the next steps. You start thinking about, do we start to go after? Do we start to do protests in front of their sister restaurants? Do we start to do protests at anyone relative to them? Do we get activists in other cities involved that have a secondary target in relation to your primary target in your city? And then you start thinking about like tertiary targets and like businesses that aren't directly related to them, that are doing business with them. So for instance, like the way that the Uchi campaign was actually won was there was a group of activists that went out to Denver, where KSL, High Hospitality's main investment firm, is, and they started protesting KSL and saying like, hey, we're asking you to ask High Hospitality to take foie gras off of Uchi's menu. You're like several layers, degrees removed from the actual primary target, which is Uchi. And there's High Hospitality, and there's KSL. So there's just so many ways you can get creative, and you can keep going. I mean, the activists with that plan, I think they got the win after like 3 demos, like, and I think they had like, I don't know, they had much more up their sleeves, I should say. So these restaurants, they're in it for profit. They're in it because of it's tradition to them. They're coming to work, they're clocking in, they're getting a paycheck, they're going home. We do all of that too. We just don't profit off of the misery of others. We work jobs and trying to help improve the lives of others, including all sentient beings, right? And then in our free time, we obsess over this kind of stuff. They're not doing that. You got that on your side. You got the truth on your side. The fact that this is abject animal suffering. You're gonna win. So just start. The best place to get started is at the start. So just get started in your city, and may not see animal liberation in our lifetimes, but I certainly foresee the end of things like foie gras and these sort of fringe products. Even fur in our lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. We
Yeah.
need these wins. Of course, the animals need these wins, but also as activists, the fact that we're getting these victories is, fuel for an empty tank. Right when we need it. So it's great. And I want, for people in the chat, we're going to take a question or two from the chat. I'm going to read a couple of the comments, but share your experiences, you guys, with pressure campaigns and email and phone storms that you've been involved in, and what that's been like and how that works, and what tips you might have for emailing or contacting or approaching. And wouldn't it be the ideal world if every time we approached the first time out the gate, like that happened in DC, they just said, sure, we see it's wrong. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah.
I mean, but that doesn't happen. And so the escalation, if people have suggestions for their own escalation techniques as well, in addition to, what PETA's been sharing, that would be great. And I want to remind everyone that PETA does have some free materials in terms of, leaflets, and where you can get those if you're not yet creating your own, which you can do. You can get some general informational on foie gras leaflets from PETA and maybe some other organizations, and maybe Duck Alliance has materials, I think you said that they will provide, and I want to make sure we have Duck Alliance, the link to Duck Alliance in our chat. If we can make sure that that is in there. And then
Yeah,
let's get to
go
the, go ahead.
go watch some of their content, get inspired, start your own thing in your own city, reach out to them. Yeah.
How will we find them?
The Duck Alliance,
Just through social media?
yeah, just Instagram is how I follow them.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So someone was reminding us we forgot about in Boston, 2 restaurants that have gone foie gras free,
Mm.
Maison and Little Donkey. So thank you for that reminder, Burner.
Yep, yep,
And
yep.
Amira saying hello from Arizona, such horrific treatment of young little ducks. Of course, we agree with that. Christina saying 100% glad we're talking about the ducks. We are going to continue to do that. Copper says it's not about them, it's about the victims. Do what's right, 100%. Tiffany, who does some organizing around this, is the audacity to tell us to get a job on Sunday as he's getting a valet. Yeah, exactly. And she also says that it's sometimes it's spite, the reason why they continue to sell foie gras,
Sure.
in addition to greed and ego. It's not good reasons, not certainly not the best of us at all. Okay, so a question, can you talk about the impact of the high hospitality win? How big of a dent was this in the overall industry?
Yeah, sure. It's really hard to quantify this sort of thing. We had an inside person that gave us a number. We can only trust their number as far as we can. We don't know. We didn't see it on paper. We don't know exactly how much foie gras high hospitality was purchasing per month or per quarter or whatever. This is an insider that told us they sell a specific amount of foie gras per day, and we sort of extrapolate it based upon the number of ounces a diseased duck liver weighs, based upon the average price per pound or per ounce of foie gras, based on that number that we got from our insider. We could say that the number is, with high hospitality, there are 23 restaurants. I think 10 were actually selling it at the time. 14 were set to open within the fiscal year. So you could say essentially 14. It's about 1.9. We were being super conservative. It's about 2 to 4%. 1.9 is the most conservative number, and we wanted to go most conservative, not shoot high and be wrong. We'd rather shoot low and not be fully accurate. And like I said, it's extremely difficult to quantify, unless we went and asked Tyson Cole himself, and I don't think he's willing to have any more conversations with us. I hope he appreciates us as much as we appreciate him and how he dropped foie gras. But yeah, I have a quote here from let me see, did I even put it in here? Yeah, one of the activists from Austin worked on some of this math, gave me like a whole spreadsheet, and he quoted. He said, if you do a bunch of math, they were 1 to 4% of the foie gras industry. He means high hospitality. If you do a bunch of math, they were 1 to 4% of the American foie gras industry. You can do the dimension analysis if you're a nerd like me, or you can just trust this handy dandy spreadsheet. And then he provided me this spreadsheet where he breaks down, I don't know, like 10 different points to show how he got to this number. It's really interesting. But yeah, it was certainly a huge dent. I mean, 2% of an entire industry in one win is a pretty big damn dent. But there's still a lot out there. There's roughly, we think, like 300 or so restaurants in just New York City alone. Chicago is just loaded with foie gras restaurants. There are some big conglomerates that sell foie gras seasonally, not at all locations. There's a lot of it out there. But if we all get involved, we all start our own little things in our cities. And, I'm glad you brought up Boston too. They do tremendous work up there on many different fronts. I mean, they're amazing. Gainesville, Florida. I think they rid the entire city of Gainesville, Florida of foie gras. Just get started. No matter how big, no matter how small your city is, get
Yeah.
started. Reach out for help, and stay in the pocket. Oh, someone. Oh, AAM said not quite done in Gainesville. Okay, what do they have, like one left or something? Uh, Nonetheless, I foresee in the near future Gainesville being a foie gras free city, much like the rest of the U.S. cities.
And there are entire countries as well, because this is an
Oh,
international campaign. And I'm trying to remember because I've read, so maybe in the
Germany,
book
yeah,
people get, I feel like Amsterdam is one of the ones I remember. Strangely, like the Czech Republic, I swear that's on the list of, and India, and there's
yep.
a few others, and I
And,
can't
and
remember.
Germany does really
In
big things too.
Germany,
I actually met one of the activists involved during the AAM New York Convergence. They do really big things out in Germany too. Yeah, I mean it's all over.
And
And
Pittsburgh,
then
I
there's
feel as
several.
a city, the whole city of Pittsburgh has now.
Pittsburgh, yep.
I
I
think
just got to meet a few of those activists.
and there was
Um,
actual legislation there. Yes.
yes, yeah, and of course they're being threatened with legal action against I believe Hudson Valley. Don't quote me. Don't sue me, Hudson Valley. Um, but yeah, they're being threatened. I think it's going to be. Yeah, I digress. New York was the same way. They had a ban. It was overturned. California, the entire state, there's a ban there. They attempted to overturn that ban. It didn't go through. Luckily, it's first state in our union to be completely foie gras free through legislation, and more to come. Trust that. And that could kind of like lead me into another point I had and wanted to make is that after Austin is foie gras free due to pressure campaigns, it'll sort of uh, well, just in the broad scheme, to solidify Austin as a foie gras free city, activists they plan on following up with legislation. And if, I mean, you just think about this, it seems fairly apparent, but let's kind of break this down, right? If we were to go after Austin legislatively right now, and there's 30 restaurants selling it, right? That means the opposition is well invested, right? So they're going to have all this support because it's a part of the local economy, right? And it's going to be more difficult for the legislative push on our end to get through and be supported by the public and without much pushback, right? So let me see. I think I have a specific quote. Um, yeah. Well, and to touch like so we make Austin foie gras free through pressure campaigns, right? It doesn't stop the next restaurant from starting to sell it, right? Of course, the activists would open up a pressure campaign immediately on that business and would not stop until they got a win against foie gras, whether it took a year or 10 years or 20 years. That restaurant would have to deal with activists outside of their front door. So it's probably not a good idea, but it does leave it in their hands to choose to do so if they wish. But if you follow through, you rid the city of foie gras with pressure campaigning and then follow through with a legislative ban, well, then nobody else can profit from shoving a metal pipe down a duck's throat and force feeding them until their livers become diseased and distend their abdomens and turn into a pate, right? So, Aiden from Pro Animal Future, who is just trying to learn from this guy, he's
He's the best.
on the yeah,
He's the
just
best. Shout out to
so many
Abe.
years of experience in so many different regards, uh, and truly like leading a new front legislatively. Go check out proanimalfuture.org. I want to say a pro animal. Somebody please drop it in the chat for me. They're
Mhm.
doing amazing things. I kind of mentioned them before. What they're doing in Denver right now with the ban on slaughterhouses and the ban on fur. But he gave me a quote, and like he's um, such a great thinker too, Aiden. So I'm just going to read this quote in its entirety. Legislation is the final stage in the process. it is inherently reactive. And when laws get out too far ahead of social change, backlash is guaranteed. Pressure campaign tactics and the wins they achieve are exactly the tool we can use to lay the groundwork for comprehensive legislation that eventually settles the issue. So, like, kind of what I just said, but way more eloquent, right? Um, so, if we try to do a legislative ban in Texas while there were still 30 restaurants selling it, that would be like Aiden mentioned, um, getting too far ahead of social change, right? So we're kind of creating that social change right now and paving the way for an easier ban, right? An
Yeah.
easier win in that regard.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
that's why, I mean, that's what we're doing. This is the bigger picture of, but let's pivot and tie it back to the Austin Convergence again.
Okay.
And and we have a question, question about that, and tell people, especially if they've just joined us, a little bit more about what to expect with it at the Austin Convergence without giving away whatever you might not want to give away. Plus, we
Sure.
have a question from Copper. How can I help in regard to the convergence, whether or not I can make it in person?
Say that last sentence again. The question.
How can I help in regard to the convergence, whether or not I can make it in person?
Okay, well, obviously help us with the fundraiser, which is way behind. I think partially because so many of us have been involved with the Uchi campaign that we, maybe some of us dropped the ball a bit, myself included, on the fundraiser front for this convergence. We've just been so swamped and overwhelmed and obsessed with getting this win. It's truly been our lives. So obviously, yes, you donate and help with the fundraiser. AAM, when they put on these convergences, fronts all the money for the entire 10, or in this case 11-day event, and they're paying for food and they're paying for housing and transportation, and um, things aren't cheap. So obviously, when you donate to AAM, every bit of it goes to some sort of action for the animals. It's put right back into the movement to get people active, right? Uh, let me. You said kind of reiterate. I don't want to, I don't want to be too redundant, but I will reiterate. The Austin Convergence gives us a chance to top what we just achieved within the biggest foie gras pressure campaign concerned foie gras win in our history here. Uh, the ability to rid the entire city of Austin, Texas, a major city, the capital of Texas, of foie gras through pressure campaigning. We will be the first major city to do that. There are other smaller cities with small, not 30, nearly 30 restaurants to do so. We will be setting the precedent here. We'll be truly writing history together during this convergence, and obviously we'll be learning from some, like I said in the beginning, to reiterating this, some of the most amazing activists that I look up to, that I want to learn more from, are going to be there. We're all going to learn from one another and create this collective. I will become more invested in what they are doing with the work that they're going to be doing in Austin. I'm going to be more ready to reciprocate when they need help. I mean, that's what we do as humans. With this movement, like I said, we have a common peril and we have a common solution. We all sort of get together, try to help each other in things. And you show up to my thing, I'm going to show up to your thing. Let's make the most effective change we can for the animals, right? Let's have discussions and do work together, and that's what the convergence is going to be. We're going to be making history together there. I hope that kind of does
Yeah.
that do it?
Yeah. Well, come help us make history. Come help us make
Yeah.
history. And and just as a side note, there's always good food and good camaraderie and
Yes.
networking and just learning and growing, and people talk about things and educate, and it's just a whole thing. It's just, in addition to the work, boots to the ground work that gets done, in addition to that, you're just feeling that you're with your people
Yeah. Yeah.
fighting, for the animals.
Yeah. I'm never more inspired than during and after a convergence. Just,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. 100%. So we welcome another question or two before we'll have to wrap up in a little bit, but I don't know if you can answer this one, Pete. But Ellen's asking, what's the status of Chicago? Was it overturned? And if so, how do we stop a back and forth overturning?
I, I don't know. The answer on that is, I, I don't know if it's completely, I don't know the exact details on that. Maybe someone can drop it in the chat.
Maybe someone knows.
Yeah. But Chicago and New York, those are the two most foie gras infested cities in our union for sure. So anything that we can do to help to help you know take this industry down within those two cities is certainly crucial. So yeah.
We have a comment from Testify Redeem. One of the main reasons politicians won't ban things like fur and foie gras is because they don't want to hurt small businesses. If,
Ah,
if no one is selling it after the campaigns, they don't have an excuse.
one of my favorite points that I completely skimmed right over. So that's another thing going back to what we were talking about, making it easier for legislative bans after the pressure campaigns have kind of cleared and paved the way on some of these issues is yeah, another thing. You're not affecting the economy so much when you try to bring in these legislative bans. If there's nobody selling fur, if there's nobody selling foie gras, it's way easier to get the win, to get societal support, because it's no longer that it's no longer detrimental to the current economy. So yeah, great point. Appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah.
Thank you for contributing that. And Josh has a question. If no one is selling foie gras in, say, Austin, then what incentive is there for legislators to ban foie gras? Would they to would they want to waste their time on a non-issue?
Yeah, I mean, I think there would be less time and less effort. Like I was saying before, if there's no opposition, if you don't have to convince a majority of the public because it's not a big part of the economy, I think it's a fair shoe-in. In Austin, well, I don't want to give away all the secrets, like I was saying before, but yeah, I think with less effort and less time, you can more easily get these legislative bans in place when there is no foie gras, like this person said, in a place like Austin. I think, of course, it's an easier win. It makes more sense for city council to shoe this in, because it's technically not affecting their constituents or the local economy. Uh, so yeah, I think there is good reason for them to do so.
Nice. And so just reminding people that the Austin Convergence is an 11 days of activism in Austin, in and around October 11th. So we're coming up on it. All
Yeah.
right, less than a month away, through the 21st. But
Woo!
you don't have to attend all 11 days, do you, Pete? Or do
No.
we want to hold people's feet to the fire? You must commit. No, no, you come and go. You come when you can.
Yeah.
It's, you can stay or not stay. But you must register.
Yeah.
Even if
You
you don't
must
get to come,
register.
we appreciate your registrations, and really I ask you to register now as soon as possible if you think you're going to come, even if it's for a day or two. And the link to register is in the chat here. And you can find it on AAM's social media and website, I imagine, as well. And so it's where activists come and converge from all over the country into one city, one town, and combine the power of their voices and their actions and their intellect, for one or two causes locally. So that's what the convergence is, and we really want to see people. And please support, as Pete said just a few minutes ago, with the fundraiser that we have as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's technically the longest convergence in history, right? In AAM history.
History.
It's 11
In
days.
all of history.
One extra, yeah, and all of
All
our
of
history,
history.
all of the universe's
Yeah.
history. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
11 days. It's
11
yeah,
days.
it's gonna be powerful for
Wow.
sure. I can't wait.
Wow. Oh, they don't know what's going to hit them. And
Nope.
they're going to be dropping foie gras left and right.
Yep.
You're going to be adding to the list.
Yeah, I say just if you're in the opposition watching this right now, just drop now before the conversion starts. Like why,
Yeah.
why
Why
risk,
wait? Why
all,
risk?
all of that. Yeah.
We don't want to show
Just
up.
drop
We
now.
don't want to come there. We don't want to
Yeah,
see
well,
them.
no, we'll still come there. We
Drop
still have
now.
a plan. We still have
Oh,
a plan C and
no, I
D.
mean,
We have lots of other animals to
yeah.
liberate. So don't worry, we'll still come. We just won't come
Yeah.
to your front door, right?
Yeah. Just type it out like it goes in the folklore. Type it out. The foie gras free policy.
Yep,
Put it in writing for us. Print it out. Email us. Carbon copy everybody,
that's
and
right.
we won't show up.
Yeah, I mean, you have a chance to be a hero, instead of a
Do the
villain.
right
I mean,
thing.
yeah, 80% of Americans think it's villainous. So
We'll
do
sing your
do the
praises.
right thing. Be a hero. Yeah.
Be a hero. So any other questions? And we'll take maybe one final question if there is one. Forgive me if I missed anything important here in the chat. Ellen says Chicago is working on banning fur. How can I locate if there is a group in Chicago to work on disrupting and banning foie gras in Chicago? Who shall she contact in Chicago? Do you know?
Um, I would say reach out to the Duck Alliance. If anyone was to know if there's a group leading the way on the foie gras front, I would say reach out to the Duck Alliance in that regard. Yeah, I don't want to misspeak and say the wrong. So just reach out to that sort of umbrella, and they'll connect you with whoever is involved
Hmm.
and everyone involved.
Anyone and everyone.
Yeah.
They are the hub of all things foie gras.
I had another quote here too from an activist in Austin, Carter, and I thought I had it saved to my notes here, but I don't. But essentially, she was just it was just a quote about the convergence and about you know how we have a chance to come together and do big things um, because of our power in numbers. Essentially, what she was getting to, and she was kind of drawing the connection between the convergence and the overall sentiment of what AAM is, and how AAM is essentially like one big digital convergence of activists year long, 365 days a year, around the entire world, internationally. Not just here in the States. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice quote, very inspiring. So Pete, we are going to wrap up. Any
Okay.
final words now? Any final words of hope, or was that your final message, or do you have anything else to add?
No, I would just say it like this. Another powerful activist, friend of mine that I look up to, Bonnie. She said, Pete, when we got this win, I'll end it with her quote. If you guys can do it in Texas, we can do it anywhere. And that's the damn truth.
Woo-hoo. If it can be done in Texas, of all places,
Yep.
come on. It's
The capital of Texas. Come
easy,
on.
the capital of Texas, and all that entails. So
Yeah.
kudos to the activists who help with that. Kudos to you, Pete, and the groups and everything lining up the way that it did. We're so happy for that victory. We're very happy for the Ducks. So let me wrap up by saying, please consider becoming a patron by finding AAM on Patreon. Your donations allow AAM to continue to provide free educational resources for activists, which ultimately saves more animals. And thank you, Pete, again. This was so important and so timely. And thank everybody out there for all the tireless work you are doing for the animals right now. If you're interested in becoming a mentor or a mentee or to get involved, with AAM, please reach out to us, animalactivismmentorship.com. Until next time, stay strong, get active, live vegan, everyone. AAM signing off. Bye, y'all.